Hi everyone, welcome to another Disney Infinity tutorial. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you a quick overview before I play the level that I've created, and then we'll show you what the objectives that we're trying to do. So you'll see here that I've used the Hulk power discs, which allows me to create destroyed buildings, and I've basically created a city that looks like it's been in a war zone, so it's all smashed up and all ruined. And the objective that we've got is that we've got to blow up that communication tower. So what we have to do is we have to set charges against this control panel, and if we blow up that control panel, a bridge will suddenly appear across this item. We then have to cross over on that bridge, and we have to set 2 more charges underneath the base unit. So we have to set the blow up the options there and set those 2 off. Now once those are blown up, we can then blow up the dish. So that's the object we game, and basically it's a form of Battlefield Rush game mode. Now if you look at here, when we set the charge, there are 2 trigger areas. The inside trigger area is where you set the charges, and when you set them you have to stay within there for a few seconds. And the outside trigger area is used for the enemy, and if they should go in there when the charges are set, they will automatically defuse the bomb. Okay, so we're going to now play the level and you'll see the game run through, but I'm mainly focusing on here when I go through the tutorial on how to set those particular charges, how we actually get through that logic and that routine. So let's play the level, see how it works out and see what you think. And this is a prime example of showing you not going too big on your maps and still being quite effective. So I've got a challenge here. After a long battle, the Imperials are almost defeated. Stop them from calling back up. On your own or with a friend, plant charges in the highlighted area and destroy the communication tower. Okay, so that's the object. Right, so if we look on our map in the bottom corner, our little radar signal comes up, so I'm going to show you that. So we need to go and plant those charges in. So we're going to head across. Now obviously we're going to have some enemies on the way. And the map itself is not that big, it's only 4 squares. I think it was only 4 squares in size. Try to keep it confined. So here come the enemies. And by the way, I was requested to use Zep. I hadn't used him for a while, so I thought Zeb, I'll use him in the system. So you'll see here I've picked him to demo my game. Oh, he just flowed off. Right, there you go. The bridge you'll see is not activated at all, so we need to get across there. So we've got quite a fair few number of troops, so I need to go and set these charges. Right, let's go across. Now as soon as I see there, just tell me to set charges. There you go. Now I've got to stay close. If I walk away too soon, charges fail to set. I didn't stay within the zone. Yeah, so I've got to stay in there, which is really tricky when you're being attacked. So I need to go back in and reset them again. Let's go back in, set the charges. Now I've got to now stop the AI enemy, the baddies, walking into that area. If they come into that area, they will stop the charges. Now the charge is going, I've got to keep clear, so I've got to get away now. Ah, defuse. So one of the enemies has walked into my trigger. There he goes. That guy behind the base has walked in, so I have to reset them again. Let's keep them away, stay away, stay clear. Charges are now set. Excellent. Right, let's keep them away. I've got to keep them away from the base so it blows up. Come on, don't go in. Is that? Don't you dare. Right, so I've got to hold them off. I've got 16 seconds left. Do not let them get too close. That guy's getting close. If he gets in, he's going to stop it. Right, I'm in there. Oh, did it again. It was 16 seconds. It works quite well, and I have to say, holding them off is quite a good object. Right, this toy box, I have to say, is probably one of the best ones I've done. Actually, it's really good gameplay, and if you put a time limit to do the whole mission within 10 minutes, that also puts a bit of pressure on. Come on, 13 seconds. I nearly got it now. Right, 15 enemies, here we go. That's it. No one's going to stop me now. So, that explodes. The base is on fire. The bridge has been activated. Let's get into the base. So the bridge has now appeared, and obviously I've used the repeater tool. And if you check out my clip on how to use magic, it's a similar effect, exactly the same effect I've used there. So if you look at my other clips how to use magic, all I do is when it blows up, I just trigger the bridge to appear. And here we go, we've got more troops now, and now I've got to get in. And this base I was trying to do came together quite easily by putting the ramps in, so I was quite pleased how they go. But here they come, they're coming up to get me. I need to set these charges again. Now same thing applies again. Once I set the charges, I cannot let the enemy come inside. If they come inside, it'll defuse it. So let's set the charges and let's keep them away. Don't get too close. Damn, someone's coming. So someone's walked into my area. Right, who was it? Someone's coming. Oh, I'm getting beaten up. Right, set charge again. Who is it? Who is it? Right, set charges. Stay in the area. Don't walk out of the area. Right, set as clock's ticking now. The charge has been set, so I can now leave the area. So there's a 5-second tool, but don't let anyone else in it, otherwise they'll defuse it. If anyone walks into that zone, I'm dead right. I can move the traffic out. No one else is coming into that zone. So I've set it that you've got to stay within there 5 seconds to set the charges, and when the charge is set, you then have 30 seconds before they then blow up. And then if an AI goes into that area within that 30 seconds, it defuses. Right, got the first one done. Right, that's the first set done. So well done. One more to go. Let's set the other charge. And look at your map. You'll notice we've got a little radar section on the map. So I've got another charges to go. Let's set these up. Oh, he's sneaking in. Get him out. Right, let's set the charges in here now. Come on, set them. Hold on. Right. Oh, he's walked in. Damn. Straight away defused it. Get him out.
Put your hand into holes and trees. Bad idea.
Right, set them again. Set the charges. Right, stay close. So I've got to stay within the area. Right, now I can, you'll notice there briefly, it just came up, they can defuse it. So if I'm playing with someone or against somebody, the other person can come in and defuse it. So I'm going to show you how, as an attacking force, we can set them, but I'm also going to show you in this clip, as a defending person, how also to defuse the bomb. Now I've got the AR to defuse it, but if I'm doing it as a two player against each other, you can also do it that they can come in and switch it off. So you've got that type of battlefield rush mode. And this game works really well actually, it's quite good. Right, excellent. I've got that now. So great work. We're almost there. Now you've only got a few more days left to get your text is all written that you need to create. Oh, where did you come from? Right, so I've got one more bomb to go. Let's go and set the dish up. There's the last one. Radar dish is on. And like I said, this map evolved quite quickly. I kept them small and compact, and it works really well, I find. Right, let's get those charges set. Where are we? There we go. Come on. There, set charges. Right, now let's hold them off. Oh, he's chucked me out. He chucked me out of the zone, which I'm now out of the area, so I've got to go back and set them again. Come on. Right, we're almost there now. Now I've got to keep them away. Wait till it says it's set. 5 seconds up. Right, now I can leave the area and I can shoot them. So theoretically, I've created the same loop 4 times. Yeah, although it's different actually. It's the same thing I've repeated in 4 different stages. So I've just got to learn how to do one of them and how I can repeat them. Let's hold it off. The guards are coming after me. They don't realise I've set the charges. Right, here we go. We're going to get it done. Looks like our mission is successful. And the dish then blows up. Oh. Right, there you go, end of mission. So let's show you how this was made. Right, so I've created some objects already before we get started, and I've just populated the text buttons already. So I've got a button to test the starting object, and I've got 3 text boxes that I've already put text inside them. Okay, the first one are individual text messages, so different stages that I want to appear. So in this case here is I've put here stay close as charges are set. That's the first message. The second one says charges failed to be set, so we failed, and the third one that the charges have been diffused. Each one of those are separate standalone. The other 2 boxes I've made as a series of statements that I want to appear. Now I've got into a style that I quite like. I like using the banners. So in here, the property is all these messages follow. So it will say charges set, defend them until they explode. They will follow each other, and you'll notice it says auto display the next line. I've actually switched that on. Okay, and I made those banners. And the other one is that when the whole thing blows up, it will then say, right, this is the objective, well done, what do you want to go do next? And this well tells us the bridge is deactivated and so on. You can make your own message of what you want to do, but that's the we've done the job, let's move on message. Okay, right, so now Some of you said my things are complicated, but what I'm going to show you here is if you practice this on a flat box that we've done here, is we're going to make it really simple and contained. Now I'm going to bring in 2 logic gates. Right, this is my starting logic gate. That's what starts the whole process. And this logic gate is my end process. Okay, so wherever this one where I place this on the screen, this is when the job's ended. So when we get a signal to this logic gate, we have done all the logic and it's all sorted. So I now know I can daisy chain these items together. So when we've got our challenge marker, we'll make this button pretend it's a challenge marker. When we press that button, it's like starting the game. We're going to input a signal into the first point. Yeah, and we're just going to connect it to there and just do input. And that's going to start our sequence off. And when it all finishes, we're going to put a signal into that last logic gate, which will then move us on to the next mission. Okay, so that's how we're going to log it out. Now, if you practice this, it's not too bad. Right, so we need an area. What are we going to blow up? So let's go to my fantasy objects. So if I go to my filters and go to my decorations and go to, which I think the menu is clusters, you've got your fantasy terrain. If we choose fantasy terrain 3, okay, I'm going to pick that big giant tree, which looks horrendous. Some of you still don't realise you can do this, right? So I'm going to pick fantasy terrain, and then I'm going to go back to the object and choose palette. And I'm going to choose the palette. I can be of various other objects, and you'll notice you've got loads of different objects it can be. And in that case, I'd like it to be the Death Star Terminal 3. And that's quite a good little terminal to get into the middle and plant your explosive. I quite like that one, so I'm going to use that one, and I'm just going to twist that round. Right, so that one's there on the screen. Now, some of you mentioned that, like I've said before, that my toy boxes are a bit complicated. Well, I have to say this is probably the most complicated. But if you structure this, and I'm pretty sure I made this as simple as possible, you will get this whole logic to work. And I would like you to build it without building your toy box. Just test them on their own. And once you realise you've got the plan, they're not actually that bad. It's not too bad to do. So let's see if this works. And please give us your feedback if you found it easy to follow. But when you test it, just create a blank box and just test this bomb. Okay, so let's go to my creativity toys and let's bring in some more toys. Now we need a couple of objects in here. Right, we need a trigger area. Okay, just going to place the trigger area down. I need 2 of them. Okay, one is for us and one is for the AI. So I need 2 trigger areas. Right, I'm just going to set these items up. I also need a locator, and that is the location of where we need to set the bomb. So I'm going to put that locator right in the middle of the control panel there. Okay, that's where I locate. I'm going to put it flat, bang in the middle. That's where we need to be to set that bomb off. So the first thing I'm going to use is like a dynamic trigger, something that triggers it off when we go in there. So let's go back across our toys. Okay, I am going to need a vector generator later for the explosion, but I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to need, where is it? I need a dynamic trigger. So when a person walks into that particular button, so I need a dynamic trigger. I'm also going to need a logic gate, so you'll see, and by the way, it's important how I lay these gates out. I'd like you, when you test this yourself, to lay it out in the exact same position. And by laying it out this way, you get to see how the items go. And the other one I need is the context button assigner. Okay, and the logic gate is needed to be on and off, so we don't have the set options all the time. Right, so we've got all those there. What's the other one I need? I don't need a scoreboard. I need a time delayer. Where is it? There we go. I need a time delayer. That is extremely important. That's going to give us the 5 seconds that we have to stay in that zone. So that time delay is going to give us 5 seconds to say, right, so we're going to put that in, you must stay in that zone, otherwise that button hasn't worked. Okay, so that's important. That's what we need that for. So that little set over to the left, that's to do with set the charges. That time delay means we have to stay inside. And I need a logic gate here to check to see, right, have the AI switch them on and off. So I need another logic gate here, so I'm going to bring that one in. Okay, and that is important. That's going to allow us to know when certain stages have happened. Okay, and where's me timer? I need a timer, and that timer there is going to be called 30 seconds. Yeah, that's going to require the 30 seconds that I need before the actual item blows up. Okay. Right, now I'm also going to add another dynamic trigger, and this trigger here is for player 2, or if you're playing against somebody, someone else can manually defuse the bombs. So I need a dynamic trigger and a context button assigner, and that allows player 2, if you're playing against each other, to actually stop the bomb. So you could do it either as teamwork or against each other. Right, and this logic gate, one more logic gate here, and that is for monitoring the AI when they actually go into the zone. So they are theoretically the objects we need at the moment to get this working. And I would like you to structure this. When you test this, structure and lay them out in the exact same way so you can follow all the connections and you can see how they go. Okay, so there's a lot of logic here that we need to set up. And that there is our starting point, yeah? And when we all finish, that is where we're going to go to at the end, okay? So we now need to make all these routes connect up, and there's a lot of joins going on here, but leave it spaced out so we can see where it's going, and it all works quite handy. Alright, one thing I forgot, obviously we need the explosion. Yeah, so I'm going to have two types of explosion. I'm going to have a huge explosion, and I'm going to have the fire. So I do need those two to happen. So one of them is going to be a repeating, and the big huge explosion doesn't happen on repeat, so it's only on one. So I need some locators for those, which will surround the actual item. So I'll have 3 big explosions, and then I'll have a number of little things on fire. So I'll use probably I don't know, say 5. We'll have 6. Yeah, so we'll have those connected up. So those are my effects generator options to them. Right, and I believe there's probably one more tool that we do actually need. Where is it? There it is, the radar marker. This is where we need to tell the user where to go on the map. So we're going to bring that across. That radar marker needs to be on, but obviously needs to be switched off when the thing gets blown up. Okay. Now I think I've got everything I need. Right. So we start off, the signal goes into here. So when I get a signal into there, so new logic connection, we're starting now. What do we want to do? Right. On output, can we switch on that radar marker? Let's show the user where they're going to go. So we're going to activate that radar marker, switch it on. So our question is, that radar marker, which that is going to light up. So what I need to do is I need to change the properties of that radar marker and link it to the area. So before I go there, I've gone to the locator connection, and I'm connecting that via the locator. So locator is now linked to that particular item. So that is linked to the locator, and now when I go to the properties, I can say not this toy. Right, can I change that, and can I make it the locator? I kept on forgetting that on the one that I tested, and I realized my radar wasn't pointing the same place. So that's probably a common mistake you'll do. You'll link it to the locator, but you'll forget to change it to say make it go to locator. There's 2 settings you need to change there, and I'm going to leave it blue, and it's going to be like a little apostrophe mark. You can have a different symbol if you want to, but that's now set on. So the game starts, signal goes on, the radar now will appear on the screen. Okay. So this here is the first bit. We have to set charge. At the moment it's not doing anything. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to do locator connection, and we're going to link that dynamic trigger to the same button. So the same option. So we're going to link it to that. Okay. And what we're going to do here is we don't need it to be. We want it to be quite close. You've got to be right on the actual button. So in this case, we're going to change the properties of that. Again, we're going to must change it to say this toy. We must change it to locator. These are the areas what people forget to do, and I'm going to change that to 2. Really small area, which basically means you've got to be right sat on it. Yeah, which is right in the centre of this, which isn't a problem. Now, when you go into that area, what happens? So when a person walks into that box, what do we want it to do? Well, I want it then to send a signal to that logic gate. So, new logic connection, when entered, okay? Now, it's not by anything, it has to be the player, right? It can be any player, but when you enter it, I need you to put a signal in here. So can you put a signal into that logic gate? Right, now that goes through. Now to start with, the default view is open. Yeah, so new logic connection. On output, can we activate this dynamic button? So can we activate that for the player, and it's for the triggering player. Okay, so now we walk in and that button will now be activated. Okay, so what we need to do is to go to the properties of that button. And what we need to do here is we need to now change this to say set charges. Now, make sure you've got a load of these saved in your master template, because you obviously at the end of this month cannot write this text in. That text will not work. Yeah, you won't be able to put the word in set charges. Yeah, so it's important you do that. So just be careful of that. So I've got it to say set charges on there when you press the button. Okay, so that will walk in there, and when I come in here, it'll set the charges on that screen. Right, so now that we've got the charges set, what else do we want to happen? Yeah, so let's go through, let's run it through. So, right, the logic's all set on. If I now walk into that area, set charges will appear. Okay, now as I walk off, it's still on the box. That's no good. So at some point I must change the duration of that dynamic button, but at the moment I'm more worried about of actually pressing the button, what actually is going to occur. Yeah, so in this particular case what I do is I will change the properties of that and change the duration to user defined in 2 seconds, but what I'm worried about is that when we actually physically press the button, I want to say that it's done its job. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get that logic gate to close. So I'm going to do new logic connection. When I press the button by the player, and it's the triggering player, can you close that gate? Now by doing that, right, this now makes this button no longer working. So if we fail to set the bomb, I need to reopen that gate, otherwise the message will never get through to that button. But in the moment, that is basically by closing that gate, it disables the message for reappearing, so the user won't get the option to keep setting charges, they've set the charges. Yeah. Now that we've set the charges, we now want to say, right, let's give you 5 seconds before the timer gets going. So I now want to fire a signal from there to say, right, we've pressed the button, can we now have 5 seconds until the charges are actually physically set? So we're going to do a new logic connection again. When we press the button again, yeah, so when it's been pressed, right, we're now going to link by the player and its triggering player, we're now going to link this to that timer. Okay, and we're going to set that timer going. So can we say, right, can we now start that delay? And that timer there gives us 5 seconds for it to work. Now that we've done that, right, so the timer is going to go off in a minute. We need to play with the settings in a moment. So let's look at the properties of those. You'll see it's set to 1 second. So let's change those to 5 seconds. So you've got 5 seconds to stay in there. But I need to tell the user that they have to stay in the base, otherwise they don't realize what they're doing. So that 5 seconds will time up, but if they're not aware of it, they'll run off and it's going to defuse the option. So in this case, when you press that button again, so when you confirm the set charge, I let them know they've got to stay there. So new logic connection, on pressed, on player, can you do the single messages that we set up, right? And that happened to be in the message box 1 where we said stay close as charges are set. So what I'm going to do there is say, can you display text 1? And that text button was in there that I had set up called stay close as we set charges. Yeah, as you see, look, stay close there. I've got that setting set up. So that's what we've got on there. That will tell the user to stay there while the item is being done. Okay, which is great. That timer is going to start ticking, and when that finishes there, we now know that we can now set the clock going. So what we're going to do now is we need to set that timer off. So after 5 seconds, I want that to go. But have we left that area? Have we left that zone? So what I'm going to do here is that when we press that button, yeah, we are actually going to then get it to trigger that we're in the time period. So what I'm basically trying to say is that I can't just link those two together, because that route might get interrupted. So that area might get interrupted on the screen. So this is where that other logic gate comes in handy. So I'm going to do new logic connection again. When we press the button, so when you press it, 3 things happen so far, right? When the trigger, if I press it, what we're going to do is this logic gate is going to be closed. Yeah, we're going to close that gate. That means we now know that we've done and we're still in the area. Okay, so we've now got that point. So when this timer breaks through, if we've stayed in that area, that gate should still be closed. Okay, so what we're going to do is new logic connection. When timer complete, can we input a signal into that logic gate? Yeah. And if we know that that logic gate is still closed, what we know is then if that is still closed, then we are still there and we have set the charges. So if that is the case, what I like to do then is new logic connection. Yeah, so we'll do new logic connection, and what we'll say here is new logic connection on input blocked. Right, can we set that timer going? Now this is where it gets tricky, so just follow it at the moment. It all makes sense. Right, that's going to set that timer off. Okay, now that gate, the problem with that gate there is that once it's gone through, it's going to go through fine. Yeah. What we want to do is now is I'm just going to say another option. When the input is blocked, we're going to display the message, and that second message to say charge is set, defend them for as long as you can, and that'll display the whole message. Yeah. So the other option I've got there is that on the input block it's going to change. Now this trigger area is the area that we need to stay in. Yeah. So we need to stay within this zone. So I'm just going to stretch that out, very close little area. If we leave that area, we're already inside it. Obviously we had to be inside to drop the bomb off. Just move it across. Yeah, so just got to stay inside that area. Okay. As soon as I come outside that area, it's too late. Yeah. So what we're going to do here is on exit. So just move. So I'm just going to position that over the place. That's probably the best I'm going to get it. So let's get that. So what we'll do here is right. If we leave that area, what happens? So on exit. Right. If we exit that group, I'm going to open that gate. So new logic connection. On exit by a player, and that is any player. Yeah. What I'd like to do here is I'd like to reopen that gate. Now if I've opened the gate, when my 5-second timer goes up, it'll hit there and it won't display the message. So in that case I want to reopen it. If I've gone out there within that 5 seconds, I press the button, the signal sets the timer off, right, the gate's been closed, I leave the area, it then gets that message and says, oh no, it doesn't work. So in that case there, what we do here is when I send the signal in, if it's not blocked and it goes straight through, then I know done. So I can do a new logic connection on output, which means, right, we're not in the zone. Can we display our other text message, which was number 2, which was charges failed to be set. So can we display text message 2, which is charges failed to be set. So that now has ruined that option. So we've now not got that setting. Okay, so we go in here, let's test it. So we walk in. As we walk in here, it'll say set charges. We press the square button. It will then say great, stay close as the charge set. Now I've walked out of the zone. My timer goes through. It found if charges failed to be set. My clock did not get started. But you'll now notice as I go back in, where's my button? Because we closed the logic gate to start with because I didn't want the button to reappear. So when it fouls, I must reopen that bait, otherwise the game's dead. So I need this logic gate here to restart. So this is where it gets quite complicated, but it's just pointing them out. And I'd say stagger your thing is, when you practice this, stagger it all out in these items so you can match these items like this. Because after you've got the logic working, you can move them all around. But that logic gate then needs to be reopened. Right, we need to reset that open on the screen. So let's go back into here. So right, timer goes off, we send the signal. Now if the output goes through, we know that it's failed. Yeah, we know, okay, hey presto, that's it hasn't worked. Okay, so once we get an output signal from there, we want to open the gate. Okay, that gate failed, we didn't get the timer going, so that gate needs to be reopened again. If we don't reopen it, then that button won't work this time. So I want it to reset the charges. So on that gate there, we can do a new option in there and say, right, new logic connection on output. Yeah. So that means it hasn't been set. We've walked out the area. Can I then reopen that gate? I have to reopen it. If I do not reopen that gate, then the button will not now work. Yeah. That will now trigger that item off. Right, so let's just go and test to see if that thing has worked. And a common problem that you have when you're building your toy box is that you can't test it because we've already tested it and that gate's closed and we didn't put the fix in until after I've already pressed the button. So I need to reactivate that gate. So the only other way is either save an old item and reload it before I do any change, or because at the beginning we have a trigger button, a logic gate that does it. So that logic gate at the beginning is our starting point. I can emulate this stage of the game just by firing a signal in there. So that button becomes really handy. So what I can say is actually when we do that button, can I reset all my logic gates? So everything that needs to go, can we reset it back to normal? So that'll set it to that group. So in that case there is I'm going to do a new logic connection on this, on our first gate that I showed you at the very beginning. That is going to reopen that gate. That gate needs to be open. And in this way I can test it as I'm going along and re-emulate each of those particular stages. So now what I need to do is when I fire a button into that signal using this button at the side, it will act as this particular stage of the game. So press the button, it fires into that logic gate, that sets off the radar and it resets all my gates. So now if I go and test this, let's go through, and as I go through into the section, you'll now see that my button now works, and it now does say set charges. Brilliant. Yeah, press the button, I've now got 5 seconds to stay in. I've ran out, or I got blown out, or defended. Damn, that charges failed to be set, so I need to get back into the section. So let's go back in there. This time I'm going to set the charges, right, and I'm going to wait the 5 seconds, stay close as the charges are set. So I'll hold off the people, make sure they don't come in. Now that they're set, the clock gets set in and they get going. Now the default for the timer is 5 minutes, which is 300 seconds, so we need to change that at some point, but that now is ticking off, so I can now leave the area, the clock is ticking, the signal's got through. Yeah. So what we want to do is we want to stop the enemy from defusing the bomb. That's what we want to do next. So that's the bit we're going to look at next. But where we go here is this timer here is now ticking. This is now a self-contained little unit. All the logic's now got through. Once that clock is ticking, someone has to go and stop it. And once that timer finishes, I'm going to set off my effects generators to do the huge explosion and to set the fire going. Okay, and I must remember to change the properties not to 5 minutes to 30 seconds at the end of this, but we'll worry about that in a moment. So what we're going to say here is when that timer is going, that's going to be ticking away, and that now goes across, so we need to stop it. And this dynamic button is for the other player, for the player 2 person, if they're not working with us, to stop that timer, to reset it. And at any stage you reset it, it stops the clock. Yeah, so I want that button there to change that particular setting. Yeah, so we know when that is started. Yeah, what I want you to do is, I want you, when we set the timer, can you activate this dynamic trigger? I want you to turn this trigger on. So we're saying is when that clock started, we want the user now to be able to defuse it if they want to. So we're going to turn that dynamic trigger on, and we're going to link that to the locator. So it's the reverse side now. So going to the same locator at the bottom, I'm going to put that locator in. And you must change the setting. Don't forget to change the setting. You must make it to the locator tool. So you must go to properties. You must change it from this toy. This is the one I keep forgetting to do when I test it. It'll go, where did I go wrong? And you must do your distance, wherever your distance is going to be. In this case, I'm going to set it to 2 as well. Okay, now this is a straightforward set. There's no on-off button, or you press it straight away, you deset it. So it's for the advantage for the defending person to quite easily deset it. So when I press that button, it's gone. Alright, so any player, when they enter that particular area, so the logic I'm now doing on this dynamic trigger, when any player enters, can you now activate that trigger button? Sorry, that context button. And it's a trigger play. And what do you want it to say? So in that button there, what I want it to say is I want to say defuse the charges. So I need to go to the properties of that. Okay, and when you go into the properties there, I wanted to change that prompt to say defuse the actual item. That's the plan. So let's change that text there. And again, keep in mind, if you're watching this far, make sure you've got your templates and you put these various spare ones in, because you cannot use these text tools after as soon as March starts. So we've only got less than a month now to get these set up. Okay, so we've got that defuse charges. That's now set. When you press the button, that's going to work. Now, when you press that button, it's all over. The job is done. Yeah, so we're going to do properties here. So not properties, sorry. I'm going to do new logic connection. When we press the button, yeah, we've done it. So when the player's done it, the trigger in play, the bomb has stopped. So can we reset the timer? Yeah, so we're going to go into there and do reset. That now stops the clock and the bomb's done its job. So it's all fixed, it's great. So we've done our object listed. So let's test it through. So we come out here, the clock's ticking. The thing should be charged on. We walk across. Yeah, it will now say defuse charges, brilliant. Press the button, and that now wipes the clock out. The clock has stopped, and therefore the bomb's reset. So I've got to redo the whole thing again. Yeah, but if I go back into it, it still says defuse charges. But I've done that. The charges aren't set. I'm stuck in a loop because the dynamic trigger is left on. The defuse button is left off. Once it's done its job, I need you to switch the flipping thing off. So in that case, that comes back to our starting point again. So going back to that starting logic gate right at the very beginning, right? What we want to do is that when I press that button, we want to finish the thing's done off. We want to turn the whole thing off. So I need to reset it. So this gate here is what we're going to do here is we're going to do a new button. When we get a signal into that, when we start off, can we clear everything off? So new logic connection. When we output the signal from there, what I'm going to do here is, can we switch off that button? So it's not on. So it's done, it's finished off the screen. Now this at this present moment, when we press that button, I need to switch that item off and I need to do the timer. Well, actually that logic gate does all that settings for me. So why do I have to create two logic? Why don't I just ping that point back again? So let's do a new logic connection. Right, on output, can we switch the, close these gates? Can we reopen those gates so they want to be opened back up? Yeah, so we're resetting it back to normal. And we do new logic connection. Yeah, so on this one, can we do on output? Yeah, can we, when we do that, can we reset the timer on that option there? So I'm going to do reset timer. So when we start off, I've reopened all the gates. So in that case, that button, I don't need the button with that timer. That timer can go. Actually, all I've got to do is send that message and that resets everything. So let's do that. Let's get rid of the link. So on here, I'm going to go back into my options, go down to my timer, and I'm going to do my square button to delete the link because I've now got that one button to do everything. So new logic connection, on pressed, can I actually, by the player, triggering player, can I input a signal back into my starting gate? And that resets and opens everything back up again. Okay, that will then reset the timer and reopen the gates and let me go back to my set charges again. So that's now all fixed on that screen. And these will now come back on, and this gate will now be reactivated, and the timer will set in your various loops that we can do. That will set the timer off, timer sets the button then sets the charges. If it gets defused, it resets everything. And that's purely by having those two logic buttons at the beginning and at the end. Keep going back to that, use that as my reset point. Yeah. So if I fire this button, let's give it a quick test. Let's shoot it. Right, so we shut it there, everything's spread, so it now resets the timers, switches that gate off, reopens all the other logic gates up. And you'll notice I haven't saved once in this particular setup, I've just done this all in one go. So let's go into here now, let's set charges. Alright, stay close as charges are set. Alright. Damn, I found set, I've gone outside them again. Alright, let's go back in. This time set charges. Wait for the 5 seconds, I hold defend and hold all the enemies off while I do it. Now the charge set ticks gets good, the defuse button comes on, now I can leave it. Now the only downside here is, look, the defuse button stays with me. The defuse button should stay within that section, so if I'm not there it should be in that screen, so I need to set, and that's the same object that I had previously on the other button. Yeah, but if I press square to defuse it, what will happen there is that now clears all the time and resets everything on the screen. So that now works, but the defuse button means I don't have to be at the actual bomb set. I want them to be restricted to that area. Set charges still works, but again, look, like I pointed out at the beginning, and these little glitches that when you test it, you really need to do it. So we need to change that the actual context button and the locations where they are. Because here I've got past it here. By being outside the area, it's already done the option, it's already done the job. So it hasn't worked. Yeah. Right, so what we need, let's change those context buttons, let's get that setting changed on there. Right, because what we want to do is that we go in, that we can defuse everything and switch it all off. So we've got our little dynamic button there, so on that setting there, if we go to the properties of that, what we're going to do there is we're going to put it use defined, and we're going to make it 2 seconds. About 2 seconds. So if we stay, if you run away, 2 seconds should be enough just to shoot off the screen. So use define, switch that on, and I need to do the same for the other content button as well. Because if I don't do that, then I don't do it on the screen. But 1 second, 2 seconds. I think I set it to 2 in my final game. It gave it enough time for the user. You don't press it within 2 seconds, it disappears off, and then you're going to have to run back into that screen. Okay, and I need to do the same here for this context button, both those changing. So to switch back on, so use define, therefore it now switches on and off. And you'll notice, by the way, although it's very complicated, I haven't once edited and cut this, I haven't made any mistakes, so practice this quite a fair few times to get this right. So all this works, that's all set all up, my timer goes on. Now let's change the properties of the time, let's not forget that, not make it 30, we'll make it 30 seconds. Okay, so let's change that to 30 seconds on the screen, so that's now set, which is brilliant. That gives the right time on the screen. So that now resets that every time you press that button. So we can do a new logic connection on the timer, and what we're going to say now is when the timer has expired and it's complete, I have two jobs to do. The first one is going to have the fire on the control panel. So I'm going to play a looped effect. Yeah, so I'm going to play a looped effect on there. And on that loop effect, I want the fire one, and it's not the blazing fire, it's the smouldering fire. That one looks more realistic, I find. I quite like that one. And on the other one, this is, you only get this one. A lot of you have still asked me, where do you get the big explosion from? So when the time expired, the big explosion can only get played once. So what I'm going to do here is, instead of doing play loop, you do play once. And if you go to explosions, this now you get to see this. You don't get to see it in the loop, it's only there on the played once option. And now I've got to link those effects generators to those buttons. Yeah. So in this case, I now have to link all those to those locators, and I can move them across. So here now I'm going to press the square, new locator connection, and I'm going to connect those up. Now as I go through connecting each one of those, another thing we need to do is that obviously when we start this level again, that first logic gate wants to reset everything, because I may play the game again, and if that's the case I need to switch off all the fire. So I could switch put in that logic gate to turn off the repeating effects as well, so we can, if I want to retest it again, I can do. I'm linking all those up, set them across on the screen, which works quite well. So I'm linking all that, and I like to do my logic gates, my triggers all in this particular area, because then I move them afterwards. Okay, so I've set those all up. Okay, and again, just to point out to you while you're doing this, look how I've laid out the logic. I've spaced it all apart on the screen. While I'm testing it, let's not worry about positioning them out of the way to start with. We move them out of the way once we finish the game, we know it works. Yeah, but I've left it in a position so I know where they are. I even tend to sketch these down and put little symbols what each bit does, so that I can come back and remind myself what, oh, that's that area on the screen. And only once I'm happy, then I move the logic out of the way, and then I do all the fancy building afterwards. So now what I need to do is I now need to move all those around the area so the thing's going to blow up. So I'm just going to move my 3 exploding areas. So click onto the X and just move them around the object. Now I've got those all set up there on the screen. And as you see, it hasn't taken long. Now from the level I've done, I've repeated this 4 times. So I've done all this same logic 4 times. Yeah, it did take a little while to do, but you'll see the end result is quite good. Now, I've already mentioned this before, but make sure that you've got your templates all created or downloaded, all your little tools that you want to use, things like the set charges, that got them all created before the end of this month. Now, in March, the 3rd of March, the servers get switched off, so you won't be able to write any more text to your tools. You can use the tool, but it won't put any text. It'll just say prompt text. Now, I've created a matrix template, and this is my last big promo for it, because only 3,000 people have downloaded it. So I have to say, if you're not got it sorted soon, it will be switched off. Disney are switching it off. It's not going to be saved. So sad news on that point. Although I have heard some good news. And that news is I have asked Warner Brothers for more information, but Warner Brothers have bought the Disney Infinity software that was was used to create the game, and also they bought the actual studio Avalanche. So Avalanche still exists, but it now is under Warner Brothers. Now, I don't think Warner Brothers will make Disney Infinity 4 or save it, because they still have to pay Disney a heck of a lot of money for it. But if they own the software and they actually have the development team, why don't Warner Brothers make their own version of Disney Infinity and call it like DC World? So I'm going to keep my ears to the ground and see what's happening on there. That could be good news. I don't think you'll see another Disney Infinity, but we may have a new version with all the DC characters, or with the Matrix or Harry Potter, because Warner Brothers owns all that. So interesting times if they can do it. Keep our fingers crossed. But in the meantime, get your templates created before the end of the month. Get them saved and get them done. Right, so we've now got our effects all linked to the area, and we've got the explosion where everything goes through, so we're all happy with that scenario. Okay, that's what we wanted to do. That now blows up. So this logic gate here starts everything. Okay, now depending where we are in our game, is if we've restarted this game, I probably want these effects to be stopped. So one thing I'm going to do is that when we start the game, just in case it's the second time we come through, so we don't have to reload it, on output, can we switch off any of those effects? So can we stop the looping effect? So we don't want the explosion, because we're saying the explosion won't have happened at the moment. When you get a signal through, we're still trying to set the charges, so therefore make sure everything's switched off. Now obviously that there is our gate so everything's finished. So when we've done this job, what we're going to do here is, so job's done, complete. So what we're going to do here is when timer has expired, so new logic connection, when timer has expired, can we input this section into this button? That is our next stage, and that will now trigger a whole replication of all this. So we're going to repeat this whole process again in another area, and that is going to be our starting point that triggers that lead off. Yeah, all I've got to do now is do an output from there into another gate. So that will fix that option. Now, all these are set up here now. There's a few things we need to change, and one thing we do definitely need to happen is that we've blown that item up. Yeah. So if we get a signal to this box, if it's all been blown up, there is no need to have the radar marker on. The radar marker needs to be finished. Yeah. The whole thing is expired. Thank you very much. So what we're going to do here is going to do new logic connection on output. Yeah. So when it comes out, can you switch off that radar marker? Yeah. So we've got those items there, but what I want you to do is that radar marker in the top corner, that needs to be switched off, because otherwise the users still think they're going to have to go there. That's done to deactivate it and switch that item off. That's it done. It's finished. Yeah, that now finished that particular item off, and we're safe on that mission. Okay, and we'll send the next item on the screen. But that's our leading point on that logic. So we've got our timer that does the explosions and sends the message through. Yeah. We've got the reset button also when it comes through, that's going to pull through. So all those connect up to those particular issues. But also, what we also need to know is that if the timer's gone off, yeah, so when the timer's actually not started, but when the timer, we need to actually stop the defuse button, because also that defuse button is still switched on. Yeah, I want to deactivate that setting. Yeah, so new logic connection. Yeah, on output, make sure that you have turned off that button. Right, it's all switched off. Yeah, so I've got that, so that's now all switched off on the screen. That should be done, and we've set those items up. Okay, so should we give it a good test? And like I say, the beauty of this is we can keep testing it, because we've set these buttons up this way. We can keep testing it. Now this is very complicated. If you look at all the logic we've got just to set some bombs, but practice this, play back the video, do it at different stages. I promise you, everyone at all ages be able to do this. Yeah, there's a lot to take in. You can replay the video. Let's set the charge. Let's give it going. And I kept on going over this, so sorry if I keep repeating this, but this gets the sequence of events in your head. Yeah, it gets what's happening, what's been triggered. So I now need to defend my enemies. Yeah, and if I go in and set the button there, press the defuse button, that clears the timer. Timer stopped. Yeah. Yeah, so player 2 switch the item off. If I now go back into the option, press the button, set charges, right, stay in there 5 seconds. Right, that's now set. Right, and now we now have to defend them, and now we have to defend the enemy while they're coming after us. Yeah, so the clock's ticking away. Yeah, and that's now ticking. I'll stay back for a second. Do our 30-second count. Now that blows up. So the explosion, get the explosion. I've got the fire, which is those flame fires on the screen. I've got the button now switched off, so I can't defuse it. You'll see the radar marker's been switched off. Yeah, and we now need to move on to our next location. If I repress the button again, that is just going to reset everything, so the fire comes off. So if I shoot it again now, clears the button, radar marker, we are back to ready to start again and restart our mission. Right, there's just a couple more things we've missed off for this test run, and one of them is that we need to tell them, now that you've blown up the object, what is our next stage of them, what do they have to go and do. So we want to guide them to move on to the next target. So on our logic gate that says, right, the job is finished, yeah, we've done everything. What I want to do there is, on new logic on output, can we send a text message to display to them that they've finished their job, well done, and move on to the next stage. So I'm going to get that displays text box one, and that will display the series of those items. Now there was one other message box that I missed off, is that when they pressed the button to say they defused it, it didn't say that the fuses were switched off. It says defuse the button, you press it but nothing happened. So I wanted the confirmation that was happening. So when they pressed that button to say defuse charges, and then what it say, charges have been defused. So on that case there, when we press that button, so new logic connection, yeah, when you press the button, I want you to display the first text box, which was in that first text box, which was number 3 though. So first text section, but the section number 3, which has said charges have been defused. Okay. Now we'll just do one final test run through of this before we then do the final trigger area, is if the AI should walk into it. And I'm cutting it fine for me hour-long video that I can do on the PS4, so you can only record up to an hour, so I'm just trying to hopefully fit this all in time. But let's just go back to the guy. Right, so just to recap all the things, this is get the logic all in your head. You go in, you set the charges. If you walk out the trigger area, you switch the charges off, you do it within 5 seconds, right? We stayed within 5 seconds, the charges are now set, right? Defend them until they explode. We've got the text appearing. We go in there, we can defuse the charges. We press that, the charges have been defused, they've now been told that they've switched off. Yeah. We now go back in again, we set them again, charges are set, that's now going to explode, right? So when we press those and accept those on the screen, so let's set them, right? Wait within 5 seconds, I've come out too quickly. Yeah, charges failed to be set. So all the text prompt is working quite well there on the screen. Yeah, we've seen the effect with the explosion and the prompt text that goes through. Right, so let's get this last trigger area done because I'm cutting it out on time now. Right, so that logic timer gate there, that is our delay time that says, right, you got 5 seconds to do it. This area is where we want to stop anyone else. So we've got that area is for ourselves, but the other area is for the air. That's why we've got 2 separate ones. So I'm going to make it slightly bigger. So I'm just going to stretch it a little bit higher, and I want to make it so it's a lot bigger than the actual box itself. So there's 2 different areas on that screen. So I'm just going to stretch that down. Right. So I'm going to get that on the box. Now I need to resize it. So what I'll probably do is, because I need the little box first, I need to make it smaller. So it's not smaller, the opposite, I need to make it larger. It's got to be larger than that box. I'm just going to expand that out. That's it, that's better. And this is the area that if the AI walks in, now if I'm playing a 2-player, I wouldn't need this section at all. So as it stands, you could just leave it as there, but this is purely if I'm playing on my own and I've got the AI attacking me. So I've just made it a little bit larger, and all I'm going to say is if an AI just enters that slightly, yeah, it's going to do it. So on this case here is I'm going to do, on that logic there is I'm going to do another logic which I need to stop the timer. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is now when the AI goes into that box, that is when I want it to actually physically switch off. So in this case here, I'm going to do on that option. Yeah, we've got the button to defuse it, but I'm going to do it with this, and this is where that final logic gate comes into place. So this logic gate just here, this is the one that's going to monitor the everything that occurs. Now, what we've got here is that this timer is set off, and it's triggered by this gate. After 5 seconds, I put a signal into this logic gate, and that logic gate will then, when it's blocked, will fire a signal to set the timer going. So when I know that is blocked, I know that we've got the bomb ticking on the screen. So we're going to do a new connection here. When input is blocked, I'm going to close, right, not that, I'm going to close that logic gate. So I now know if that logic gate is closed, therefore we have the bomb ticking. Yeah, and then what we then say is if we have an enemy AI that enters in there, so a new logic connection, when you enter it, and it's not player, it's an AI, and it's going to be enemy. Yeah, I'm going to input a signal into that logic gate. Okay, I'm going to input a signal into that logic gate. Now, if that logic gate is blocked, then the charges have been switched. So what I can do is, if that's the case, I can do a new logic connection on there and say, right, on input blocked. So new logic connection on input blocked. What I want to do now is I want to tell the user that they've been defused. Right, so I can now display text message 3, the thing's defused, but I now need to switch everything else off. So in that case, what I want to do there is I can reset that trigger button. So in that button there, if I press that, that resets everything back off on the screen. So what I'm going to do is there, a new logic connection on input blocked, and I'm going to send a signal now back to that gate, and that will now reset all the gates. Now the last thing I need to do, to do that, so input that, that will then switch the timers off, that'll switch the buttons off, switch all of those. But the one thing I do need to do is I need to reopen that gate. So on output, so new logic connection on output, can I open that section? And that is it set up. That is your gate. That is your set the charges up. Now I have to say it is very complicated, but space them out, run through each stage. That will now do your logic. That is it now done. And when that finishes, when we finish the item, it's the other gate that starts, so we can then move and repeat all this whole process again. So that is our starting point. That resets the thing, and that is our finishing point. When we finish, we can move on to the next item. Now I'm running out of time to go through another example and run to the demo. So the last thing I'm just going to show you here is how do you do the next item. So I got that. I'm now going to repeat the whole process again. I can't build the whole thing again, but so I'm just going to get my tools up here. We'll now create not a logic gate. I will need logic gate. I want 2 logic gates. So this would be my starting logic gate like before, and I'll have another logic gate which is my end logic button. Okay, but when that signal finishes, so that's the same one as that basically, it's the same on the item, but when that item there finishes, I want you to do new logic connection on output. Can we send a signal to that gate? Right, that will now start the whole option going. So in that case then I want to go and rebuild everything again, so I'm going to need a radar marker. I'm going to need all the same things and rebuild exactly the same again using that as my starting point. So as an example, let me just bring up radar. Has I got radar marker I'll do? Which I think was one of the first ones. Chuck a radar marker in, and I'm just going to build it to my next stage. So in this case, I set the timer off. So when this set through, I did my replay, start playing my replay tool, gets the bridge occur. When I then set that on, I then switched on my other 2 areas of the screen. Okay, and activate that. That now marker comes on. Okay. Now the other thing you might obviously going to need are some enemies to attack. Now one thing you need to do is also keep the memory down on the machine. Now if you look at the game at the beginning of this level, it only took half the display, and that's because I only have the enemy needed when I actually do the game. So when I get to that particular gate, I want an enemy to appear. So not to take up much memory, the enemy only appears when I need him at those stages. And the more I've played around with it, the more that's what I find I actually chuck things in. So keep the maps down to a minimum, and when you need them to appear, they appear on the screen. So what I'm going to do here is quite quickly, I'll chuck in an enemy wave generator. Yeah. So there's my enemy wave generator. Stick that there. Okay, configure the wave, but basically what I'll do is on start I'm going to start the wave off. Yeah, so configure the wave, put how many people you want. Now on my game I've done it, I think about 15, sorry, I did 6 pieces, so I did 18 characters. Any more than that and it can slow up the game. It's quite, 18 is about the right number. If you go too many, I want a big army, big soldiers, but it can tend to slow up if you're going to have a big map. So in there, new logic connection, when we start this trigger, so we're going to do new logic connection on output. Can you send that through and set the wave up? Now I haven't got time to go through one more run of this. If you do, just run the clip and it'll show you that's how it works. But that is everything you need for this. This is how you set charges. Now it's very complicated. I'd like you to all give it a go, because I say if you crack this, you've got this done. I do hope you do it, and please, if you do like this, make sure you do the like on my YouTube channel. Please say that you liked it. I appreciate your time. I've got some more coming. I'll try and get some more up before the end of the time. So thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next week or so. Many thanks. See you later, guys.